What is up, people? Hi. I'm going to now talk about processors. Okay? Sure, why not? Now, I want to say XDG open is boxes, okay? This is a processor. Bang. I made it for you. I drew it. Isn't it freaking nice? Okay? And this is as far as I'm going to go with processors. Right? This is as far as I'm going to go. A processor is just as I said before, is like a PO box that's stuck on a wall somewhere. Certain stuff goes into certain areas. Okay. Now, there's names of the areas that you have to put the stuff in. Okay. And shrink it up. Shrink it. Oh man, I can't shrink no more than that. Let me get this right. Let me get this right. Okay. I'm going to use this little terminal window here as a pointer. There's places you can stick stuff. Okay. This is a processor. It's all a processor is. Areas for containment of data. Okay? You can stick stuff here, you can stick stuff over here, you can stick some stuff down here. Okay? If you have more than one thing, well, you can stick things over here and store them there. Alright? And then you can go ahead and stick something else and put it over here in this box. Okay? That's what a processor does. That's all a processor does. Okay? You stick some stuff over here, and then you would stick some stuff over here. Okay? That's all it does. The only thing it does is move stuff around. It does it all with time. Okay? And for instance, if you have a 2.2 gigahertz processor, it'll move stuff around at 2.2 billion times a second. Okay? That's all a processor does. That's all it is. Don't really give it too much more thought. Okay? Now, the only thing is that we do have to know, for instance, what type of processor we have. Okay? If you have a 32-bit processor, that could be something that could be a PowerPC, that can be an Alpha, okay? That can be a Spark Station, okay? But I am only going to talk about Intel x86 processors, okay? Which is a 32-bit processor. That's the operating system I have. That's the most generally used processor is the x86 compatible processor, okay? And you have 386 is you know 8386, 8486, okay? These are all compatible with x86. They're all 32-bit processors. 8686, okay? Did they have a 586? I think they did. I'm not sure. Right? So that's all 32-bit processors. That's the processor I have, and that's that. Um, the thing is with processors, let me do a vim.tiny you rock. That's not for me. That's for you guys. 'Cause you guys rock. Thing is with a processor, like I said, there's different types of processors. Some processors do things in a different type of way. I'm only going to talk about the most popular, which is a 32-bit processor. If you don't have a 32-bit processor, you may have problems with some of the things that I do in this video, but this is geared towards a 32-bit processor perspective, okay? 64-bit processors are different than 32-bit, okay? They are different. They're not drastically different, but they are different. And but at the same time, they are different, yes. Yes, they are. Alright? But also, they are also backwards compatible. Okay? So if you have a 64-bit, if you're doing this on a 64-bit, you may have problems with some things they do. Some things may not be 100% accurate or correct with you, but you can, through your own initiative, figure out how to do that better for your particular processor. I'm going to be talking about 32, okay? And it's possible with a 64, okay? It is possible with a 64. And it's not that hard with a 64 either, okay? I just don't use a 64-bit processor that often to actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to 64. Now, so that's that. And that's also the same if you're trying to do this on ARM processor. Alright, that's different. PowerPCs are different. Like I said, Sparks are different. Alphas are different. Okay. X86 underscore X86 sorry, oh man, X86 underscore 64 is different. Okay. X86 deals with 32-bit architecture. 32-bit architecture and those compatible with 32-bit architectures. 64-bit is compatible with 32-bit architecture. Why? 32 times 2. Okay? They came out with 64-bit processors, I'm going to say 10 years ago they hit mainstream. And they are compatible with 32s. Why? Because 32 is the biggest processor ever manufactured at such a wide scale. And if you were to just have 64 not compatible with 32, what would happen is you would lose backwards compatibility. So all the old programs that everybody else has figured out and used and set as a staple would no longer work. Okay? So things had to be backwards compatible. That means they're compatible with the previous generation. Okay? Okay. Now, there were some processors back in the day that were not compatible with the newer generations, and so they stopped those. But 32 and 64 is not the case with those two. So, back to processors. Back to my processor. Where's my pick? Back to processors. Don't give it that much thought. It's not that complicated. Okay? It's just a place to stick stuff. It's a chunk of funk carved out. There's sections everywhere to stick stuff. These certain sections do certain things. And that's it. And there's names for those sections. That's it. Some things do more things than other things. Okay? And you just have to know where to put the data, or where the data is stored. Okay? Now, popular names for parts of a processor and the evolution behind them. We will say vimtiny.txt. We will say this. I'm not going to draw a processor. I'm just going to say the names of them. EAX, EBX, ECX, EDX, and let's say extended code segment. Let's say we're only going to talk about these parts, certain parts of the processor so far. Okay. This is the 32-bit type of arrangement on a processor. This is what at least 4 boxes are called. Okay? This is what we refer to 4 boxes in the processor. There are more than 4 boxes in the processor. Okay? There are more than 4 in the 32-bit processor. But I'm only going to focus on these 4 for right now. Okay? And I'm going to give you a little history and evolution of these. Okay? If you're using a 64-bit processor, your boxes, which I will now refer to as registers from now on, areas to stick stuff, your boxes are named a little different. I think this is what they're called. RAX, RBX, RCX, and RDX. Okay? These are different registers, different boxes to stick stuff, to stick data in your machine. Okay? So, like I said, this is what a 64 bits registers are called. Alright? Now, since we're only sticking with 32-bit, here's the evolution behind it. What happened was, when they did computing and everything else like that, 32-bit computing came out in the 80s, right? And it was a powerful, greatly powerful processor. It was the 386, okay? And it's a kick-ass, everybody's used it processor. 686 is actually the processor I'm using now. It's still a kick-ass, everybody is still using it. And if you're not using it, whatever you got is compatible with this, okay? So the 8386 has a lifespan of more than 20 years or so, okay? Close to 30 years almost by now, alright? And what it consisted is, or 32-bit is an upgrade from what was the 16-bit processor, okay? The 16-bit processor had registers, okay? BX, CX, DX, okay? The 16-bit processor had these registers here. Well, the 16-bit processor is too small to take enough data. They upgraded 32-bit so you could put more data at a time through the processor, alright? Or that your processor could process a bigger string of data. Remember how I said, you know, our strings and data maybe that long with a 32-bit chunk going through the wire, or going through your processor. Well, with a 16-bit, it will be half of that, okay? This is obviously not the proportion, but that's what it is, okay? So, 32-bit runs faster, okay? And naturally, you know, through using your brain cells, you can definitely say that 64-bit is ungodly amounts of chunks going through, okay? And that's why we get stuff moving so fast we do. High color games resolution, why we can almost do virtual reality on some things, okay? But back to 32-bit and 16-bit architectures, alright? Like I said, these are boxes that we will call registers, because that's the proper name for them. These registers contain data, okay? And the 32-bit processor marked up what was the 16-bit processor register, okay? And there are not only 4 registers in a 16-bit computer, there are more than 4, less than 20, more than 4 registers, or places to stick stuff in a 16-bit operating system. There are more than 4, less than 25 places to stick stuff on a 32-bit processor, alright? And each place is designed and designated to do certain things, okay? But the names of them, this is the names of them, alright? But the EAX register on a 32-bit processor came from the AX register of a 16-bit processor, okay? 16-bit, of course, is before the parent of the 32-bit processor. The E in front of the AX only means extended, okay? So they extended the AX register of the 16-bit processor for the new 32-bit processor. That's all it is. EBX, same thing, extended. ECX, extended. EDX, extended, okay? To keep backwards compatibility and everything else like that. It just made it a little bigger so you can stick more data through it, okay? Now I'm going to stop talking about 32-bit architectures, and I'm going to go down to 16-bit architectures, okay? And there's little difference, except for just think of it 16 going through instead of 32 going through. There's a reason why. I'll show you. BX, CX, and DX. Okay? Now, this is one particular place to stick data. One place to stick data. One box. One register. Okay? One register to stick data. Okay? And EAX is also one register to stick data. Okay? But in a 16-bit register, remember what I was talking about nibbles? We can split this one area into two smaller areas. Okay? And that is a L as for a low, and an AH for an A high. Okay? We can split this box here, which is the AX register, into two smaller areas, AL and an A high. Same thing with down here. You have a BH for B high, B low. Okay? You have a C low and a C high. Right? They're in no particular order. You have a DH and a D low. Okay? Remember, this here would be the low byte, and this here would be the high byte. Okay? And now, by looking at this is 16 bits. Okay? So that means that one of these boxes is only 16 bits wide. Okay? One of these boxes, the AX register, is 16 bits wide. The AX register can be split into a low and a high. Okay? Now, if you symmetrically cut them apart, alright, if you have 16 bits, alright, that you cut in half, alright, you're going to have an 8-bit low and an 8-bit high. Okay? That's it. That's all that's going on here. Okay? The BX register contains a higher 8 bits of information and a lower 8 bits of information. Okay? Why did they do that? Why they did that is better explained by them, but that's what it is. Okay? So that's the registers, and with a 32-bit register too. With a 32-bit register, you do have a EAX, which is a whole chunk of 32. Okay, whole chunk of 32 that can be split into two smaller chunks of 16 a pop. Okay, and they can be split into the AX register. No, lows and highs. Would it be AX? I don't think it would be AX, but they can be split. Okay, and I don't think they get split down to AX. Well, because then they're yeah. Can be split. EAX can be split to AX, which can be split to EAL to AL, and pff, holy crapazoids, 32-bit gets split. Okay, let's say EAX register can be split to a AX register plus AL plus AH registers. Okay? Okay? That looks good. That looks good. This looks better. Okay? This is how they can be split. Alright? 32 bits full. Okay? This is a 16-bit register that can be split into two 8-bit chunks. Okay? Okay. That's that. And the reason why this is important, because with assembler, code is so small that you don't need a full 32 bits wide of data to throw things through, okay? Or you don't need a full 64 bits of data or 64 string to throw things through. You can only use what you need, and that would be 8 bits at a time, and certain things like that. Alright, Okay, now let's look at some syntax. Let's look at some syntax and actually show you some better conventions about the parts of the processor and what's being done in the processor. Can I go to C? Let's go to C. Okay. Now remember, we did a hex dump C on, let's say, our source code file of hello. Okay? Remember we did that. Alright. It's only a source code and all that. We already went over that. And we also did a hex dump C of our executable file, which was compiled. And that's what we got. Alright? A ton of stuff inside of there. Okay? We did a comparison to the sizes of these two files. Okay? And notice that when we have a C library, a C compiled program, it just explodes to a greater amount, at least by 100. Okay? Okay. Now, with assembler, you're not compiling assembler, you're using machine code to directly insert it into RAM that gets directly written to the hard drive. Okay? So that's pretty cool. So how big do you think it'll be? It is very small. It is very small. That's why assembler is useful. Hex object dump disassemble. That's why assembler is very useful on different things as far as little machines even. Okay, little machines, robots might run C and blah blah blah, but you know, if you want your robot to be so small, it's gonna run assembler. Okay, it's gonna run an assembly type of language. All right, so small. Let's disassemble. Let's disassemble. Let's say Intel A.out. Perfect. This is what goes on. This is our A.out file. Remember what A.out is. A.out is an executable C program file. Object dump will take this chunk of data, take this executable format. Object dump will take this executable format, and this pretty much shows you the machine code of what got compiled. Okay? So this is actually what your computer is reading. Right? These areas here are certain sections. Okay? Better for you to understand. Okay? They're just separated into certain sections for you to understand. Okay? But I disassembled this. Okay? Okay. Now, we're not really going to look so much at the left-hand side. Okay? Let's look more at the right-hand side of what's going on, because this is actual syntax that we will be using to stick stuff into stuff, and everything does something else. Okay? Everything does something else, like I showed you in the other tutorial with the Linux kernel and everything else like that. He had to enter that stuff in as machine code, or enter it in as assembly code, okay, to get stuff where he's got to go. Okay, certain things, again, NOP is no operation, or it's a hold, nothing, do nothing. Okay, push deals with something we'll talk about later, which is stack. Okay, you will look over here, you'll say EBX. That is familiar. I'm using a 32-bit processor. EBX, remember, EBX, E for extended, BX is my register. That's an area to put stuff. That's the box. This is referring exactly to the box that I showed you about in the previous slide. Okay? And this here is saying push, EBX. Okay? Dealing with stack. Pop is another word for dealing with the stack. Add is to add, right? Okay. Move is one that we will be talking about quite a bit. You see here, move, okay? And basically, it's doing all. There's no glorious, glamorous way to put it. You are moving stuff from one part of the processor to another part of the processor. You are moving, for instance here, you are moving stuff in EAX through EAX, and then you're gonna call EAX. You're gonna call is actually to like come to EAX, or request data from that location. So if you would say call, it's request data from the EAX location. Okay, you're just moving stuff around. Uh, Even at a physical layer now, you can even say a physical layer. When this executes, you are moving stuff from this part of the processor to another part of the processor. Okay, EBX. Okay, you're just moving stuff from A to B. It's that deep that you're actually. This is why assembly is freaking awesome. It's because you're actually into the processor now. You're into that nanometer technology, right? You're actually manipulating things on the board. Not on the board. You're actually manipulating things in silicon. I mean, if you don't think that's pretty cool, you're a dry fly. I mean, you are actually doing something at the microscopic level with voltages and freaking electrons right now inside of a little chip of crap that you can't even see exactly what you're doing. All right? It's like, I don't know what to tell you if you ain't amazed by that. This is syntax. This is what it's going to look like. This is some of the things. These are some of the areas. These are areas. Okay, what are these numbers? I think I don't know what that is. Alright? I don't know. It's not important really for me to know what that is. Alright? But there's stuff here that we will go over that means something. Everything in here means something. Okay? And if you look at it too, let's shrink this up a little bit. Okay? And there's certain types of ways to view this. Okay? Basically, to put this in a better light, a better word, a better frame of mind. Okay? This here is move. This is an instruction. Okay? This area here to the left now, we will say is an opcode. Is it an opcode? No. We will say it is an instruction. Okay? We actually will have to type in move. We actually will have to type in sub. We will actually have to say push. Okay? We will have to say call. We'll go over all these. We'll have to say CMP, which is compare. We'll have to say jump not equal. We will actually have to type in these commands. Okay? We will actually have to do all that. Jump equal. Okay? And we'll go over all this stuff. This here is an instruction. Okay? For example, this here is an instruction. This is what the instruction is referring to. Okay? So this would say, this instruction, push the EBX register. Okay? Actually, since push only refers to something that's called the stack, we're pushing what's in EBX. If you have a freaking donut in EBX, if you have a tasty cake eclair with coconut sprinkles on top of it, which it sounds really daggone good. I don't even know if they make them or not. But if you have that inside of EBX, that gets pushed onto the stack. Okay? Don't worry about stack. We'll talk about that anytime. Now here you will see sub. Okay? This is the instruction. Okay? Now this instruction, it's not like we made it up. It's not like it was just created out of nowhere or nothing like that. This stuff here is hard-coded into the read-only memory of your processor. Okay? Your processor reads from something, and that's the memory. And this stuff is hard-coded into the memory chip on your motherboard connected to your processor. These are standard commands for the 32-bit processor. Okay? So we have to get to know them. And where was I at? Man, I'd like that donut right now. That sounds awesome. For example, we will say sub, which is a hard-coded instruction. Okay? On a one-to-one basis with the processor. We will say sub, which is subtract. Subtract what? Subtract from the EBX register 0x4. Okay? This is a memory address. I'm pretty sure it's a memory address. But it's subtracting that from there. Okay? And then it's going to call the EAX register. Okay? And it's going to call what's inside of the EAX register. This here is a compare statement. Okay? So it is saying compare what is in the EAX box on your processor with that number, that memory location. Okay? So that's that. It's not really that complicated once you get into the know what you're doing. You are physically manipulating your processor with the words that you type on your screen. You are at a personal level with your hardware. Alright? And hey, that really makes me freaking super duper cool. Uh, doesn't make me cool. Well, it might make you cool. Doesn't make me cool. It just makes me really freaking interested in what the hell is going on. Alright, so with that, I'm done talking about these specific parts of the processor, and we'll get into something else about processor. We ain't stopping anytime soon, because I have a ton more stuff to talk about when it comes to the processor. Okay? So, have a super day. 2934.